On your Thursday episode of Locked On Raptors, newsflash, shooting is important.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. It is Thursday, November the 15th, recording this late Wednesday, November the 14th, following the Toronto Raptors 128-112 loss to the Giannis-less Milwaukee Bucks. Great times. We will try to do the short version today because no one wants to stew in this game for 30 plus minutes. Either way, I'm your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can find all my work over on the website that don't work so good at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. And of course, you can come hang out in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. The link is in the description of the podcast. It's free to join, and it's a great place to come hang out among friends, to come do some, group therapy when the Raptors lose games as well. It's a lovely spot. Would love to see you in there. Come hang out. Again, free to join. You can also, for free, find the podcast only for podcast apps. Support by subscribing, following, rating, reviewing, whatever the app of choice asks you to do to support the podcast of choice. Please do that. We're also on YouTube. If you want to go hit the notification bell over there after you subscribe, you will never miss an episode when it goes live. And guess what? We do them every day, baby. That's it. That's the whole deal. And so you don't want to miss them. They go up and they're good and they're fun and they're great. Anyway, I'm spiraling. Let's get into it. Today's show is brought to you by Jace Medical. Empower yourself when you purchase a Jace case, providing you with a personal supply of 5 antibiotics that treat 50 plus infections. Get yours today at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right. Let's get to it on today's show. We're digging into a not very good loss to the Milwaukee Bucks, 128-112. The score does not do this one justice. Yes, there was a bit of a fake comeback attempt in the fourth quarter. That was all right. They closed out the third reasonably strong as well. There were some good individual performances to spotlight in this one, in particular Scottie Barnes, which we will do in segment 2 as we ask, what did Scotty and Gradey do? The thing we're going to try to do after every Raptors loss here when the time allows. We got the good, the bad, and the coming up, but off the top, let's just dive into the big takeaway from this one. No OG Anunoby, no Gary Trent Jr., and the Toronto Raptors were drawing dead against this Milwaukee Bucks team who, yes, we're missing Giannis Antetokounmpo. This is not lost on me. You should probably have a better effort against the Bucks when the multi-time former MVP and NBA champion is not on the floor. That said, I think the Raptors being down OG and Gary Trent Jr., they're two most reliable three-point shooters. They're two guys with the most space and shooting gravity on the entire roster. Not to mention all that OG does on the defensive end. Gary Trent Jr., not so much, but obviously the shooting is still very important. Again, the gravity is what really was missing in this one. The Raptors being down those two guys in this game, to me, was more damaging to their chances of running functional offense than Giannis Antetokounmpo not being in the lineup was to the Milwaukee Bucks. Because, of course, the Bucks have Damian Lillard, who's very good. You may remember him from previous Locked On Raptors episodes, such as the Raptors should trade for Damian Lillard, among others. He's excellent. And in this game, just got loose at all turns. No defensive containment on the perimeter. We will talk about the point guard play in this game from the Raptors in the final segment of the show. Guess what? It's going to be the bad. Spoiler alert. Spoiler alert? Man, recording late makes it so I can't say words. Either way, Dame in this game, 37, 4 boards, 13 assists, 2 steals, gets 15 of 16 from the line, and he earned a lot of those free throws. Was it a bit of a tilted whistle? Maybe, but he was really the only guy getting to the line in this game, and it's because he gets to the rim a whole lot. The Raptors, of course, finished this game with 10 more free throws than the Bucks had. Some of that's penalty stuff and all of that. There's nothing untoward here. Damian Lillard, really good at getting to the rim, deserved all those free throws, hit them because he's good at hitting free throws, something the Raptors could maybe take after, could maybe use on their roster. And, from there, you get 4 threes out of him. You get 8 threes out of Malik Beasley. A lot of this just starting with bad containment at the point of attack. Lillard gets downhill, kicks, drives, or drives, kicks, and then threes are raining on your head. Malik Beasley, campaign, has 3 threes in this game as well. A big late one, backbreaker one, as the Raptors were trying to make a push from Brook Lopez too. But really, this was Lillard and Beasley just shooting the lights out in this one. And for the Raptors, without their 2 best 3-point shooters, the math was always going to be a challenge in this one. And then it's amplified by the fact that without that shooting gravity, the twos are way harder to come by because Brook Lopez is a monster at the rim. It's a challenging place to kind of try to navigate and do your thing. Pascal Siakam did not have the same way with the Bucks defenders as he had with the Wizards or the Mavericks the last couple times out when he had really big nights. He had a couple moments where he totally dusted Bobby Portis, but credit to the Bucks, they made it so there weren't that many opportunities for Pascal Siakam to go and dust Bobby Portis in this one because they just sent so much attention his way. And they can do that because there's no shooting on the floor. It's the way basketball works in 2023. Shooting is important. Spacing is incredibly valuable to having any sort of functionality to your half-court offense. You see as well, Jakob Poeltl in this one, didn't have the same counter to teams sagging completely off of him. Brook Lopez not guarding Yak, even 18 feet from the basket. He's just hanging back in the paint. And against the Celtics, there was at least a bit of a counter there for Yak where he could say, you know what, I'm stronger than Kristaps Porzingis. I can put it on the deck once or twice and score and kind of make the Celtics think a little bit with this. That's just not an option over Brook Lopez when you're Jakob Poeltl. There's not a physical advantage there. And so that wasn't an avenue to easy buckets. And so just a lot of possessions where it kind of comes to Yak around the nail and just looking around and like guys are either glued to their defender or blocking passing lanes. And there's just like a slow developing play, seconds ticking off the shot clock. Just really, really grimy offense in this one. Dennis Schroeder, we'll get to him a little bit later on. Not a good game from him either. But there were just so many possessions in this game that embodied the struggle of not having 3-point shooting. And, the guys from the bench couldn't really chip in either. 9 of 33 overall in this game, 27%, not going to get it done. You need more than 1 of 4 from Jalen McDaniels, who otherwise I thought was pretty decent. You need more than 0 of 8 from Malachi Flynn. You just do. And when you can't make the defense think with your threes, they're just going to be totally at ease sending multiple bodies towards your best players. I think Scottie Barnes did a better job navigating those extra bodies in this one than Pascal Siakam did. Siakam still ends up with 5 assists. He had 4 turnovers, though. Not super great. You don't love to see that. Scottie 7 assists to 3 turnovers. He handled it a little bit more effectively. But again, Siakam it was like Tampa out there a lot of times, just driving into thickets of arms. There's one possession that comes to mind in particular where it's in the third quarter and Pascal has the ball on the left block and 2 guys converge on him basically immediately. The double comes, he kicks it up. Malachi Flynn, 1 pass away to Jalen McDaniels. He bricks a 3. Offensive rebound. Malachi Flynn gets it on the sort of reset, bricks a 3. And then another offensive rebound comes to Flynn on the far wing, bricks a 3. And that just made me want to scream, turn off the television. This one's over. There's nothing they can do. And that's just all the byproduct of the extra attention they could send to the Raptors' best players, the lack of attention they felt like they needed to send to the non-good players on this team tonight. And, you can't live if you're not going to get sort of above your head shooting from guys like Flynn and McDaniels on a night where you don't have OG and Gary Trent Jr. To me, this again comes like to roster construction. The roster is just too bereft of shooting. You can't be this dependent on 2 guys to have a functional half-court offense. And we'll get into how Dennis Schroeder, I think, really kind of dragged things down in this one too. But I put this one mostly on geometry, really. This was a geometry loss. The Bucks had it. They had space. They had shooting everywhere. They had Dame pulling up from 30 feet doing the Dame thing. And the Raptors had none of that, even though there were, again, a couple nice performances in here. Not nearly enough in order to get the Raptors where they had to go offensively. We checked the number. I shudder every time I do this, but the Raptors' half-court offense in this game, the 30th ranked half-court offense in the league, is going to get worse after today, as they were around 84 points per 100 possessions in the half-court per cleaning the glass. Now, after this game, 79.3 points per 100 possessions against the Bucks. That's going to go down. They're going to be even more 30th than they were coming into tonight. Not great Bob. We'll come back on the other side and do the thing that we try to do to lift the spirits whenever the Raptors lose, which is, what did Scotty and Gradey do? And in the case of Scotty, a whole lot. It was pretty awesome. We will get to that. We'll talk about Gradey, who had a bit of an up and down night in his first NBA start. And we will, of course, round it out with the good, the bad, and the coming up at the end of the show. Before we get into all that, however, got to tell you about our friends over at FanDuel, the #1 sports book in all the land. And right now is a perfect time to score early this NFL season with FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because right now new customers get a $150 bonus bet, or get $150 in bonus bets, that is, with any winning $5 money line bet. It's that easy. You win a $5 money line bet and you are going to get $150 into your account in bonus bets if your team wins. That is pretty sweet. If you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action than right now. The app is super easy to use. There's a wide range of betting options, including spreads, player props, over-unders, and more. And it's not just for the NFL. I'm not an NFL fan at all. Sometimes I wager a little on basketball or a little hockey, sometimes baseball, things like that, mostly when I'm in person at an event. But if you want to go and dabble, there's all sorts of lines. Take the under on Toronto Raptors scoring points. As long as OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. are out, you'll probably do all right, although he might have hit the over in this one with 112 points. A lot of that, of course, garbage time points. But either way, you could go right now to FanDuel, check all the lines for all the games that you might want to throw a little wager down on, and get that $150 in bonus bets if your team wins a $5 money line bet. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Kick off the NFL season. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL and of the Locked On Podcast Network. All right, continuing on here, your first listen of the day. If you're listening late at night, you're a trooper. I can't believe you waited up to listen to a podcast about that game this late. Get help. If you're listening on Thursday, we love you. Thanks to our everydayers, of course. If you're not an everydayer, why aren't you one? It's a great place to be. If you want to listen to a podcast that's more uplifting than this one, probably, go listen to the show from Wednesday with Dan Devine. One of my favorite pods we've done in a very long time, because Dan Devine is the freaking best, and I really highly encourage you to go check that out. Also, Friday, we're going to play What's More Likely with Katie Heindel, so that'll be fun. You have that to look forward to round out your week. Okay, let's dive in now to the thing that, lifts our spirits, makes us feel a little happier, and that is, what did Scotty and Gradey do? The segment we're going to try to do here every time the Raptors lose a game throughout the season, to try to keep some perspective. This is the stuff that really matters, the stuff that makes all the other big questions about the team a little easier to answer, a little less dire in terms of their importance, because Scottie Barnes rocks. Gradey Dick might rock too. He's not there yet, but Scottie Barnes sure is. Scottie Barnes in this one just kind of walks into 29, 9, and 7 on 11 of 19 shooting, hits all 3 of his threes, 4 or 5 from the line as well. He's actually been, outside of Dennis, probably like the most reliable, like the free throw shooter who makes me feel the best, I think, when he goes up there these days, which is nice. He's hit some big stuff in fourth quarters and stuff like that too from the line. Encouraging signs from Scottie Barnes in that department, at least. I think for Scottie, ball of energy in this one. There were a couple, stretches where he kind of floated in and out. For start of the third quarter, where the Raptors really kind of laid an egg. That seemed like a spot Scottie could have kind of asserted himself a little bit more. He was kind of non-existent to start the quarter, but the whole team was. I'm not going to put that on Scottie. A couple of things that stood out for me in this one. Like I said, Scottie did a much better job navigating the thickets of arms and tall people on the interior than Pascal Siakam did in this game. And that makes sense, right? He's a really talented passer. He can kind of thread really tight windows and find guys. And Jakob Poeltl, I think, really benefited. Yak didn't start the second half in this game. We'll talk a bit about that in the coming up later on. But he closed this game strong. 13 points, 11 boards, 4 steals, 2 blocks. A lot of those points coming off of directly created looks by Scottie Barnes. And you know what? Not against more Scottie Yak pick and roll as a thing they can go to. That seems to be something that works a little bit. It's not really something that seems all that switchable, because you're going to have more sort of lumbering bigs guarding against Yak. You're not going to switch lumbering bigs onto Scottie, because Scottie apparently can just kind of get downhill now and get to the rim in a lot of cases. And so, he's kind of working in his pull-up mid-range game too, so that adds a slight threat to give a little bit more space to Jakob Poeltl on the dive. And Scottie's just such a good passer that he doesn't need tons of space, right? He can thread these passes in, And unlike Dennis, who I feel like kind of throws passes to Yak pretty low and kind of underhand sometimes and kind of where he has to kind of lift it back up, Scottie can hit Yak right up high. He's a big dude. He has those really high angles. It's why he's such a good passer. It's because he's enormous and also a genius, and he can make those reads and make those passes. And I think Yak really benefits when he's working pick and roll with Scottie, maybe more than anybody else on this team right now. So more of that. Let's tap into that. I think that would be good. I think the 3 of 3 on his catch and shoot threes, really nice. I don't think you're going to bank on 3 of 3 every night, but a nice little bounce back after some slight regression to the mean in the last few games here. And those catch and shoot looks, the pull up stuff, that's going to come and go. Those are much harder shots. But the catch and shoot ones, they look very controlled, very in rhythm. And I don't see any reason why he can't be a pretty good catch and shoot 3-point guy all season long with the way his form is looking. That's awesome. Another Scottie thing I love, and this helps beef up his offensive rebounding totals. He had 5 of them in this game. Raptors, 26 offensive rebounds in this game, and still yet could only muster what they did on offense. Really nasty. Not great. But anyway, Scottie Barnes, 5 offensive rebounds. The thing I love is the sort of really dramatic miss and recovery of said dramatic miss for a putback. Scottie really seems to kind of go in with big illusions of grandeur sometimes with these sort of soaring layups that sometimes will miss, but he's so relentless and so huge and so good on the glass and great nose for the ball that he kind of collects those misses a lot and puts them up. And so you get a double highlight out of it. It's a lot of fun. Saw a couple of those in this game. Overall, really nice from Scottie. Again, the fact that he walks into 29, 9, and 7, nice to see after a couple of off games offensively for him. And, keep on getting to the rim, man. You can score over Brook Lopez. You can score over anybody else. And I'm kind of liking that Scottie is realizing his powers when it comes to getting to the rim and just being a bloody good finisher, even in the face of really good rim protection. It's great to see. Awesome stuff from Scottie in this one. That is the thing that matters. Above all else, Scottie Barnes rocks. All the other things get a lot easier. And the things get easier for Scottie Barnes when he has OG Anunoby and Gary Trent Jr. available as well. Shooting's important. Him and OG, wonderful fit. All that stuff. He didn't have the luxury of that tonight and still powered through a pretty rough team context to put up some damn good numbers. That's star stuff. That's you'll take that 10 times out of 10. Gradey Dick starts this game, first career NBA start. Wonky on the shooting, 1 of 6 from deep, 2 of 10 overall. The shots he did make, I mean, when they fall for Gradey, they look so pretty. He had one coming around a curl from the free throw line in the first half. It looked really nice, really in rhythm. Just totally can that. That's going to be a thing I think we see for many, many years to come with Gradey Dick. He had a catch and shoot 3 in the fourth quarter when the Raptors were kind of out of it at that point, but still nice to see one go in for him. Gets to the line 6 times in this game, leads the team in free throws. That's cool. I'll take that. I think one of them might have been an open floor foul on in the penalty and stuff like that. So it wasn't like he was getting to the rim a ton and scoring. He got to the rim a ton in this game and got blocked or had weird finishes. Those are things that are going to iron out as he becomes not 19 years old, right? He clearly has a nose for the rim, has a nose for getting to spots where he can score. It's going to come. I'm not worried about the shooting splits right now. All the stuff outside of the shooting splits suggests this guy knows what he's doing. I think a little bit jittery maybe on the decision making. Sometimes he makes the sort of errant pass after kind of maybe driving a little bit into too deep of position. He gets weird angles and then kind of has to panic and kick it out, reset the offense, and sometimes turn it over when he does that. Just the one turnover in this game for Gradey, but a couple of weird decisions here and there that kind of derailed offensive possessions, but nothing too worrisome. He's still got a great nose for the glass. He had no boards in this game, but I felt like he was around and trying to grab a whole bunch of boards. He had one where he tried to slap it off the backboard to try to get it back to the top of the arc for Precious Achiuwa. I think he was standing there. That's interesting. Again, he just has a nose for where to be, a nose for the ball, knows how to get to the spots where he can affect the game, moves very well away from the ball. I'm not upset about the shooting totals. Really, it would be nice for them to start falling. He was put in a tough spot starting in this game. Honestly, I didn't know if I totally agree with the starting decision as much as I want to see more Gradey Dick minutes. But, the only way Gradey Dick's going to learn is by kind of being immersed in the speed of the NBA game. I really kind of believe that. I know there's going to be some thought of, does he go to the 905? Can he send him down to the Raptors 905 to get him some run? I mean, maybe. There's no like playing basketball at a pro level is good for anybody, I guess. But for me, Gradey Dick is trying to process and learn the speed of the NBA game. And the best way to do that is trial by fire in the NBA game. He's doing enough stuff that is positive and productive that I think it's worth keeping him out there to sort of try and figure it out on the fly here. Maybe the season progresses and there's not the sort of step up that you're hoping for as he is more sort of subjected to the rigors of the NBA and more attuned to the speed of it. And then that's a point where maybe you make a decision. But I think for now, throwing him into the Wolves and just kind of seeing if he can process as he's learning it, I think it's going to be good for him. And I also maintain that he's the type of player who, yeah, the 905 will be productive for a lot of guys, maybe even for Gradey Dick. But I kind of think he's the type of player, his bread is going to be buttered by being an amplifier to good players and being like a fifth option type guy, fourth option type guy whose gravity is making life easier on everybody else. And not only do I think it's good for his development to kind of learn playing along with good players, the Raptors also just need his spacing. They need the fact that this guy can get open for 6 threes a game. You can't hit him right now. That's not great. You want to see them start to fall. It was awesome to see him go 2 of 4 on Monday against the Wizards. You would hope that that was the beginning of a bit more of a regular trend of them falling here, but just the space he provides, the way he makes defenses have to think because they know he can shoot, and because he just moves very well without the ball, this offense needs any grease it can get right now, and Gradey Dick offers a little bit of grease, which is nice. So yeah, that's what Scotty and Gradey did. Overall, again, you want more efficiency on the shooting attempts from Gradey Dick, but I don't have too much of a worry about what we saw. And Scottie Barnes, freaking awesome. He's making the star turn, and it's very, very cool. We'll come back on the other side, round it out with the good, the bad, and the to close out this show. Jalen McDaniels. All right. Not great, but plus minus suggests he was pretty good in this game. We'll get into that and more in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by Jace Medical. Look, being prepared is an important thing. Emergencies happen, especially if you're traveling, for example. Maybe you're somebody who travels a lot for work or you like to go on vacations. You never want to be caught in a spot where you don't have access to the medical care that can help you if you fall ill, specifically like stomach bugs and stuff like that. You can get some nasty stuff if you're traveling and you're not at home and you don't have access to your regular stuff or your regular medical care. That is where Jace Medical comes in with the Jace case, which is an emergency set of 5 antibiotics that treat up to 50 different common infections that you might run into in an emergency or natural disaster, anything that might be. The hope is you never use it. The hope is that it just is there and you have it and it's peace of mind. But in the event that you do need to use it, you have not only the tools in terms of the actual drugs themselves, but you also have access to Jace's roster of licensed doctors who can walk you through proper and safe usage of these medications. So go right now and check them out. It's not just medications as well. It's not just antibiotics, that is, that they also get your annual medications or an annual supply of medications that you might need for your day-to-day, whether it is something you take just for quality of life. Even ED generics like Cialis, Viagra, and Revatio prescriptions are available. So go right now to jacemedical.com to receive your 12-month supply on your daily medication or to get your Jace case. Remember to use the promo code LOCKEDON at checkout for a discount as well. That's promo code locked on at checkout at Jace Medical, JASE medical.com. All right, rounding out the show here with the good, the bad, and the way we close out every game recap episode of the pod here. A thing I liked, thing I didn't like, and a thing that's got me a little intrigued, a burgeoning trend, if you will, or just something that kind of caught my eye that I'm not quite sure how to feel about just yet. Let's get to the good. Look, he was 3 of 10 from the field. He had some pretty bad bricks from deep, but Jalen McDaniels, for the first time, looked like an NBA player in a Toronto Raptors uniform in this game. And I'm counting that as a good on a night where not a whole lot went well. And I've already talked about Scottie Barnes. He was a plus 21 in this game. He was on the floor, of course, for the sort of fake comeback in the late third, early fourth. I thought he played some nice defense in that stretch. He was part of the zone they were rolling out there. By the way, rolling out a zone against the very shooting rich Bucks lineups that were on the floor. It is a choice. I mean, it kind of worked for the Raptors. I don't know if it was because of anything the Raptors necessarily did. You saw like there was just these wide open swaths of court for Chris Middleton to walk into mid-range jumpers from. And I thought Scottie got a little overzealous, kind of forgetting the parameters of the zone and getting a little out of position here and there. It worked. It powered the sort of fake comeback. It was all right. But Jalen McDaniels, I thought served pretty well as like a wing defender within that, down in the bottom of the zone. I think, he had a couple dunks. We like dunks. The dunk he had in the first half was a pretty nasty transition jam. You just anything for him to see the ball go in the bucket is going to be nice. There were also some really bad moments of Jalen McDaniels in this game, just kind of flubbed layups and stuff like that. It's not perfect right now. I would have preferred to see more Otto Porter Jr. than Jalen McDaniels in this game, for example. But again, can't argue with plus 21. Can't argue with him being out there for the most successful stretches of the game. And you can't argue with them yams. So I'll give Jalen McDaniels a very light good on a game where there was not a whole lot of good going around for the Raptors in this one. Precious Achiuwa, I guess, a mild good as well, although boy, oh boy, was he riding the poster coaster in this one. A couple nice moments here offset by weird turnovers and just such jumpy fouls, like me in 2K jumping all over the place, trying to block shots and fouling relentlessly. So Precious doesn't get the good. There was some good there, but I'll give Jalen the good for tonight. The bad, point guard play through and through. Really, really rough stuff. When you don't have OG and you don't have Gary Trent Jr., the point guard play has to be at least passable, and it just was not. And on a night where Damian Lillard was doing what Damian Lillard was doing on the other side of the floor, it was really stark. Dennis Schroeder's second straight game just looking a step slow. He was questionable, of course, for this game, ended up playing. I wonder if they just got to sit him down for a couple games here just to get him right, because he has looked slow. He has looked, sort of indecisive and just not with the same sort of zip and pop he played with at the start of the season. Also, his defense has kind of fallen off a cliff the last few games, just like the blow-bys and just incessant. He was the biggest reason why Damian Lillard was able to get downhill so often in this game. He was guarding him for much of this game, and it just was not working. You got to have better from Dennis Schroeder. This is a team that doesn't have point guard depth as it stands. If Dennis Schroeder is hurt and like trying to play through it, I think you risk longer term negative effects if he's playing injured through a thing that, maybe you could get over in a week of just not playing and some rest. I'm not a doctor. I don't know what's going on, but to me, he does not look himself the last couple of games. And that's a problem because this team doesn't have guard play. They are extremely thin. We talked about this with Joe Wolfon last week, the sort of dire state this team will be in if Dennis Schroeder is not healthy or if his really good play falls off. We've seen it the last couple of games. It can get pretty grim if Dennis Schroeder is not looking like Dennis Schroeder. And so, obviously playing tournament game Friday against Boston, you want to have your guys ready to go and all of that. But if Schroeder's not available or not if 100% healthy Schroeder is not available, I think it's best he just sits and gets right. Again, I'm not a doctor. I don't know what the hell's going on, but that's just kind of my read on things. Ever since the first possession in that Wizards game, he took like a weird step or something, and it's been weird since then. I'm concerned, very concerned. 2 of 9 from the field in this game, 1 of 4 from deep. 3-point magic's fallen off a little bit from him. That's to be expected. He was shooting like 50% for a long stretch there, which was never going to stay at 50%. But if there's a concern I have right now about the next little stretch for this team, it is the point guard stuff. Because if Schroeder's not right, Malachi Flynn's the one backing up. And as much as Malachi Flynn's had some moments, tonight was a perfect night for him to go grab the bull by the horns and say, hey, I'm a rotation player. I'm good. And boy, oh boy, did he do the exact opposite. Yes, he was a +4. Yes, he was out there for the run, but he also was 0 of 8 from 3 on a night where they were just yearning for anyone to hit threes above their station. And, this was going to happen, right? Flynn's been at like 50% from deep this season. There was going to be some kind of regression here. You would hope it wouldn't all happen in one big avalanche of regression in one game where they desperately need some shooting from a position where they're not getting a whole lot on a given night. But yeah, just a disappointing one from Flynn in this one. 5 assists. He had a couple nice moments. He had a nice and one that looked pretty good where he denied the screen, got downhill quick, got fouled and scored. That was cool. Again, there's some moments here and there. I'm not saying you go and bench Flynn because of a bad game here, but this is the shot making stuff that I've talked about with him for like 2 years now. If he's not going to make shots, there's a problem because they desperately need some bench piece who's not their primary guy who can just kind of hit, catch, and shoots to hit, catch, and shoots. And he did not do that in this game, and it was pretty tough stuff. Look, this game made me wish Damian Lillard was the point guard of the Toronto Raptors. I will say, I can't say Damian Lillard. It's really hard to say. I don't know why. But boy, I would figure out how to say it if he was on the Raptors because, man, there's a reason I was so high on the idea of him being the point guard for this team. Whatever the outgoing package would have been, obviously, trading Scottie Barnes for Dame. I'll happily eat crow on that sort of notion. Glad they didn't trade Scottie for Damian Lillard. Other trade packages that could have been done would have been nice because Dame would be huge on this basketball team. On the point guard thing, if Dennis isn't available Friday, we'll see. If they can get OG and Gary back, I do think you probably just roll with Scottie as your starting point guard, even though I don't think he's a point guard. He's clearly got enough juice right now to create. Pascal can obviously do that as well, run some pick and roll for you, stuff like that. I would like to see that be the lineup. I don't think I want to see Flynn start if that's the case, if there's no Dennis on Friday. Getting, cart before the horse and all that stuff right now. We'll see what's going on with Dennis. They haven't even done post-game media as I'm recording this, I'm sure. So we don't know what's going on, but I would like to see, run that Scottie Yak pick and roll with Pascal and OG and Trent, hopefully, if he's available, spacing around. Otto Porter Jr., if he's available, and Trent's not, et cetera, et cetera. There are ways to get a little creative. They won't have good point guard play, but I think there's some ways they can kind of, rig some offense that will be at least passable. I said I was going to keep this under 30. I have not because I had things to say, I guess. Let's quickly get to the round it out. Rotation decisions. Some interesting stuff in this game from Darko. Gradey over Otto to start. I would have preferred Otto to start, but Otto didn't play very well Monday, and I'm not opposed to getting Gradey Dick some reps. So not a huge problem there. Would have liked more than 11 minutes from Otto Porter Jr. I hope that one bad game against the Wizards is not going to excise him from the rotation or anything like that. Jakob Poeltl doesn't start the second half in this game. Precious starts in place of him, and you saw the spacing. It wasn't fixed by Yak not playing. And I don't think Yak, he didn't have a great first half. He had some sort of wobbly, situations where, the hands weren't very strong, tough finishes, stuff like that. But I think for the most part, I would just rather Yak steadiness out there over Precious as a center. I still don't think Precious is a center, man. He's got to learn how to be a center before he's a center. He hasn't learned how to be a center yet. So, there was a possession early in the third quarter. Pascal drives. There's 3 dudes on him, and Precious is at the top of the arc, completely unguarded. Just nothing going on there. Wasn't helping the spacing situation whatsoever. Maybe it was more of a can you switch him onto Dame on defense type of thing and keep him in front. Couldn't do that either. Dame's really good. Precious fouled him a couple times. Got too jumpy, et cetera, et cetera. I would imagine we'll see Yak get his usual rotation sort of slot in the next game because he's just the best center they have right now. And even with the limitations, he's their best option at that spot if they're going to run a traditional center. Without OG, I think you kind of have to. Unfortunately, you can run the OG Siakam Barnes trio across the front court when he's available. When he's not, much tougher, of course. And then Siakam didn't play in the fourth quarter. I think some people noted that as a thing to be concerned about. Not really. They made a push with Scottie and the bench, and I think Yak was in there too. So they made a push and they got it to within 13. And then before they could even call a stoppage or before a whistle could be blown to get Pascal in around the 5.5 minute mark, when you would in theory try to go make a push for it with Pascal, the Bucks had blown it back out to 20. So I think it was just a matter of game flow here and not a matter of Pascal getting benched or anything like that. It wasn't his best game by any means, but also, again, he was just playing in a phone booth all night long and did what he could. Sometimes he's just going to drive into a thicket of arms and just has to pass out. Had 5 assists, as he's wont to do. Not too concerned. But yeah, tough one. Tough one overall. That'll do it. I'll wrap it there. Apologies for going longer than I thought I would. I hope 34 minutes of content on this game is all you hoped it would be. We'll be back again on Friday for a little bit of What's More Likely with Katie Heindel. Looking forward to that. In the meantime, go listen to episodes from yesterday with Dan Devine as well if you want to go and have some more listening for you for the rest of today. And thank you so much for tuning in. Subscribe, follow, rate, review, tell a friend, etc., etc. Always appreciate the support of the podcast. And we'll be back again on Friday. Another episode of Locked On Raptors with Katie Heindel. Until then, thanks so much. Thanks for hanging. Bye-bye.